Over the past 200 years, around 70 mysterious disappearances of ships, planes, and hundreds of people have taken place in this area. The Bermuda Triangle, also known as the Devil's Triangle. This part of the ocean has been called an underwater graveyard, where countless shipwrecks have been found resting on the seafloor. Many theories have been suggested to explain these strange events, but along with them come wild speculations about supernatural forces, aliens, or the spiritual realm. The mystery and fear surrounding the Bermuda Triangle have spread so widely that it has inspired countless books and documentaries. But how much of that fear is actually true? How much can science really explain about the stories surrounding the Bermuda Triangle? Over 70 unexplained disappearances with no wreckage and no distress signals. Could the Bermuda Triangle really be a gateway to another world, or is it simply nature playing tricks on us? In this video, we'll explore why this mysterious stretch of ocean has captured the curiosity of millions for so many years. When we think of the Bermuda Triangle, most of us immediately picture mysterious disappearances and legendary tales. But few people know that the very first records of strange events in this region go back more than 500 years. Have you ever wondered what could turn an ordinary stretch of ocean into a legend that has lasted for centuries? In 1492, during his historic voyage to the Americas, Christopher Columbus sailed through the waters near the Bahamas, today part of the Bermuda Triangle. In his journal, he noted that his compass suddenly went off course. At that time, the concepts of magnetic north and true north weren't well understood, so this seemed like a mystery to the crew. Columbus also wrote that he and his sailors saw strange flickering lights on the horizon and even what looked like a ball of fire falling into the sea. With the limited knowledge of the 15th century, these sightings only made the region feel more unusual and unsettling. Less than 120 years later, in 1609, one of the most famous shipwrecks happened near Bermuda. The English ship Sea Venture, carrying around 150 people, was caught in a violent storm and struck a reef. Everyone on board survived and took shelter on the island, which later led to the founding of the Bermuda colony. While not a mysterious disappearance, this event highlighted how dangerous the waters around Bermuda could be, with sudden storms and harsh sailing conditions. Were these stories signs of a curse or simply proof of how unforgiving nature can be? By the 19th century, ghost ship stories began to spread, adding to the myth. One of the most famous was the Mary Celeste, found in 1872 drifting in the Atlantic. Its sails were still up, its cargo untouched, but the entire crew had vanished without a trace. In reality, the Mary Celeste was discovered near the Azores, far from Bermuda, but over time, the story became mistakenly linked with the Bermuda Triangle, fueling the eerie reputation of the region. Then, in the 20th century, came truly shocking events. In 1918, the USS Cyclops, a massive U.S. Navy ship nearly 170 meters long, carrying over 300 sailors and thousands of tons of ore, vanished without a trace on its journey from Brazil to Baltimore. No distress signal, no wreckage. To this day, it remains the single largest non-combat loss of life in U.S. Navy history. Just a few decades later, in 1945, the incident known as Flight 19 turned the Bermuda Triangle into a global mystery. A squadron of 5 TBM Avenger bombers went out on a routine training mission. But as they entered the area, radio contact was lost. Pilots reported they were disoriented, unable to find their bearings, and then they disappeared completely. A PBM Mariner rescue plane was sent to look for them, and it too vanished, along with 13 crew members. In total, 6 planes and 40 men were never seen again. This remains one of the most famous aviation tragedies in U.S. Navy history. From events like these, people began to believe that a true death zone existed in the ocean. But is that really the truth? When people hear about the Bermuda Triangle, many assume the name has been around for centuries, tied to old legends. But the truth is very different. The term Bermuda Triangle only appeared in the mid-20th century, surprisingly recent. For hundreds of years before that, sailors simply saw this as a stormy stretch of ocean with dangerous currents. Nobody called it by some mysterious name. But what if I told you that the entire idea of the Bermuda Triangle came from just a few lines in a magazine article in 1964? That year, American writer Vincent Gaddis published an article in Argosy magazine titled The Deadly Bermuda Triangle. In it, he introduced the term Bermuda Triangle to describe the triangular area connecting Florida, Puerto Rico, and Bermuda. Gaddis listed several famous disappearances, especially Flight 19 in 1945, and raised a shocking question. Could this area be more dangerous than anywhere else in the world? People think this mystery has been around for centuries, but did you know the name itself is younger than many of our own parents? Just a decade later, in 1974, the Bermuda Triangle exploded into a worldwide phenomenon thanks to Charles Berlitz's book, The Bermuda Triangle. The book sold millions of copies, was translated into dozens of languages, and turned this stretch of ocean into a global legend. Berlitz didn't just recount real cases, he added mysterious twists, ships disappearing on calm seas, planes vanishing without sending a signal. His storytelling fueled the imagination of millions. Of course, many of the incidents Berlitz described were later explained as storms, navigation errors, or technical failures. But at the time, readers weren't looking for dry explanations. They wanted mystery, and Berlitz delivered during an era when books about UFOs, Atlantis, and aliens were bestsellers. With that wave of interest, wild theories multiplied. Some believed Bermuda was the site of Atlantis, with ancient technology buried underwater, disrupting compasses and instruments. Others claimed giant energy crystals lay on the seafloor, sending out powerful electromagnetic waves. Some even suggested the triangle was a space portal, connecting dimensions and swallowing ships and planes instantly. There were also theories about UFOs and secret alien bases, making Bermuda a centerpiece of pop culture. In the scientific community, some wondered if the area had unusual magnetic fields. But modern surveys showed Bermuda's magnetism is no different from anywhere else. Still, once a legend is born, it rarely dies. The Bermuda Triangle has become a brand of mystery, a magnet for unsolved stories, conspiracy theories, and human imagination. But what happens if we strip away the myths and look at the Bermuda Triangle purely through science and numbers? Science always begins with a simple question. Is there a more reasonable explanation? If the Bermuda Triangle were truly supernatural, why do most explanations come down to ordinary laws of nature? For decades, researchers have studied this mystery in depth. They've come up with a range of scientific theories, and none of them are boring. To explain why so many accidents have happened here. First, traffic density. The Bermuda Triangle lies right along major shipping and flight routes that connect North America with South America, Europe, and the Caribbean. Tens of thousands of planes and ships pass through every year. With that kind of heavy traffic, it's no surprise that accidents happen more often here than in remote waters. It's like a busy highway. The more vehicles, the higher the chance of crashes. So many so-called mysteries are really just ordinary accidents happening in a place with a scary reputation. Second, harsh weather. The tropical Atlantic is a breeding ground for massive storms and hurricanes. A storm can form suddenly and grow fierce within hours. Before satellites and radar, sailors and pilots had almost no warning. Ships could sink without anyone knowing, and wreckage was nearly impossible to find in the vast ocean. Beyond hurricanes, there are also rogue waves, giant walls of water up to 20-30 meters high that can swallow ships instantly. Today, satellites have confirmed their existence, proving they're not just sailors' tales. We often think the culprit is something supernatural, but it turns out the real danger is simply storms and the raw power of the sea. Third, magnetic and compass shifts. Earth has two norths, true north and magnetic north. In many places they don't line up, but at certain times the agonic line, where they match perfectly, has passed through the Bermuda area. Back in Columbus's day, this wasn't understood, so when compasses shifted, sailors thought something strange was happening. On top of that, magnetic fluctuations or solar storms can also make compasses and instruments act strangely, throwing ships and planes off course. Fourth, methane hydrate gas. Deep under the ocean floor, including parts of the Atlantic, there are frozen pockets of methane gas. When these break apart, huge amounts of gas can rise to the surface, creating giant bubbles. Water full of gas loses density, which can cause ships to lose buoyancy and sink quickly. Lab tests in the 1980s showed that even model ships could sink instantly when methane was released. If the gas reaches the air, it could even stall airplane engines. While there's no direct proof linking this to any disappearance, it's still a fascinating theory. Fifth, human error. Many maritime and aviation accidents come down to mistakes. Flight 19 is a prime example. A U.S. Navy report concluded that the squadron leader misjudged his location, thinking he was flying over the Florida Keys when he was actually over the Atlantic. They flew the wrong way, further from land, and eventually ran out of fuel. But many newspapers left this detail out, instead pushing the idea of a mystery disappearance. Finally, exaggeration. Researcher Lawrence Kusha, in his book The Bermuda Triangle Mystery, Solved, 1975, showed that many so-called mysteries had already been explained. Some ships were found, some accidents had clear causes, but reporters left out those parts to make the stories sound more dramatic. Some cases didn't even happen inside the Bermuda Triangle, but were still labeled as part of it to add to the legend. In other cases, ships sank due to onboard fires or explosions, nothing mysterious at all. All of this shows that when you put the pieces together, heavy traffic, violent weather, magnetic shifts, methane gas, human error, and media exaggeration, most Bermuda incidents can be explained by science. If science has explained most of these events, why do we still prefer to believe in wild stories over dry facts and numbers? By now, we've heard both mysterious stories and scientific theories about the Bermuda Triangle. But when we look straight at the data, the most important question is this region really as dangerous as people claim? If it's truly deadly, then why do the numbers actually show Bermuda is safer than many other seas? First, remember that the Bermuda Triangle sits on one of the busiest transport routes in the world. The area covers roughly 500,000 to 1 million square kilometers, right in the path connecting North America, the Caribbean, South America, and Europe. Tens of thousands of flights and thousands of ships pass through each year. With such heavy traffic, accidents are bound to happen, just like a crowded highway will always see more crashes than a quiet road. But here's the surprising part. When researchers compared the data, they found the accident rate in the Bermuda Triangle is not unusually high at all. In fact, other oceans are far more dangerous, yet rarely get mentioned. For example, the North Sea in Europe is notorious for giant waves, snowstorms, and icy conditions. The Indian Ocean faces both tropical cyclones and modern-day piracy. Antarctica is full of drifting ice and extreme weather. And yet, nobody calls those places the Devil's Triangle. So maybe what makes Bermuda frightening has less to do with the ocean itself, and more to do with the way humans tell stories about it. The answer lies in media and human psychology. When an accident happens in the Bermuda Triangle, the story gets blown up and widely shared. But the tens of thousands of safe journeys every year? No one pays attention. Psychologists call this confirmation bias. We focus on the evidence that supports what we already believe and ignore what doesn't fit the story. That's why the image of dangerous Bermuda has stuck around, even though the statistics say otherwise. In fact, official agencies have been very clear about it. NOAA quotes both the U.S. Navy and Coast Guard. The U.S. Navy and Coast Guard do not recognize the existence of the so-called Bermuda Triangle as an especially hazardous area. If even the U.S. Navy denies the existence of a Devil's Triangle, why do we still cling to it as one of the century's greatest mysteries? The truth is, the Bermuda Triangle's appeal doesn't lie in the sea itself, but in the stories we tell about it. By the numbers, Bermuda is no different from other busy waters around the world. But in our imagination, it has become one of the most famous mysteries of modern history. So we've explored mysterious tales, scientific theories, and even the hard numbers behind the Bermuda Triangle. Maybe you still want to believe it's a supernatural zone, or maybe you lean toward the more reasonable explanations. But the most fascinating part isn't the ocean itself. It's how we, as humans, tell stories, imagine, and turn an ordinary stretch of water into one of the most famous legends of modern times. In the end, perhaps the real mystery isn't in the Bermuda Triangle, but in our own minds. And what about you? Do you believe in science, or do you still want to keep a little mystery for yourself? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you found this video interesting, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you won't miss more exciting discoveries ahead. See you on the next journey.